before we start the show, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Beef, the Beefmaster Education Endowment Fund. Thank you for everything you do for the cattle industry, this breed, and us. Thank you for supporting us. SEBA, the Southeastern Beefmaster Breeders Association. Thank you for all you're doing, especially for the Southeast, and look out for their sale every August in convention. Emmons Beefmasters, Mr. Steve and Miss Cindy needs no introduction. Thank you for what you do for the breed, and thank you for supporting us. C&M Ranches out of Kershaw, South Carolina, the Chick family. Thank you for what you all do for us. It means a lot. Lissy's Beefmasters down in Texas. Thank you to them for supporting the show, and look out for their sales, multiple sales a year, plus some frozen genetic sales. Cottage Farms Beefmasters, thank you for supporting us, and thank you for what you do for the breed as well. Been in it 50 years, and that's saying something. Sea Shepherd Beefmasters down in Texas, thank you for supporting us. Jones Beefmasters over in Savannah, Tennessee, Mr. Clark Jones, look out for his sale every June. Has great cattle and breeds, just great stuff. Valor Cattle Company out of Georgia, thank you for supporting us, and we couldn't do it without any of you, and we really appreciate it. Welcome in to Beefmaster Banner. We're your hosts, Josh Morrison and Jared Strickland. How's it going, Jared?
It's going good. We got our first frost of the year last night, so cooler weather's in the works, but I think we're going to still have a little warm spell for a little while.
Oh yeah. We had a pretty hard frost this morning. It was like 30 degrees, 29 somewhere in there. It was way too cold.
Yeah, we didn't get quite. I think we got down to about 32 or 30. Just enough to say it frosted, but I don't think it damaged too much of the grass yet. So
it was plenty cold enough for me to start complaining already.
Well, I always think you get those frosts like that, it's always a sign that, at least for us in the East, the hay feeding time is coming.
And it's probably coming. It'll come quicker now.
Yep. So, and it kind of, which we're going to talk about weaning today, but that always reminds me of weaning is when it starts frosting. That's when a lot of people do a lot of weaning too. So.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. It's never the most fun thing going out there and it's 15 degrees outside and you're out feeding hay, but in the rain or the freezing rain, that's the worst part.
Oh yeah.
I'm just a wimp when it comes to wintertime though.
Well, that's around the corner, but we ain't got it as bad as some of them folks north of us, I guess.
No, we don't. And we've, I tell you, I felt bad we're going to kind of go into the disaster relief stuff here in Western North Carolina, but it was snowing up there yesterday morning and this morning already. And it really made me feel bad, even worse for those folks that have lost, I'll just be honest with you. There's people up there living in the woods because they have no house, they have nowhere to go. At this point, it's terrible. Which there's been tons of coats donated, like through our work and stuff like that, so that's good. But it's probably the best way to explain it to people that are out your way or even further west is imagine going and dropping a major bomb somewhere and seeing what was left. That's pretty much how it is over here in the mountains. I mean, it's, I know we talked some about it last time. I'm sure people are seeing pictures and videos, but I'm telling you, it's the worst thing that lots of us have ever seen, and probably the worst thing most of us have ever seen. I wish the news would cover it better because I don't think they've covered it near enough, but I get it. They other things going on, but it's they're working to clean up and working all of us to death in the equipment industry, but it's all right. We'll keep going.
Keep rolling. Well, we're still praying for all those folks. It's gonna be a long recovery, sounds like.
Very long. And I read the other day, and this would probably affect a lot of people, but it said I saw something that Interstate 40 may not open until 2028.
Oh goodness.
So I guess they're gonna have to. I don't know if they're gonna build a bridge over that or what they're gonna do, but it's gonna be hopefully they'll get to that a lot quicker than that. But there's lots of other things going on right now that they probably need to tend to anyways.
Yeah, that's
But
I
2020,
could,
that's a long time.
yeah, I can't imagine how think about how long it takes to get that, how important that road is through there too.
Oh yeah, I mean it's really the only main road to Tennessee from Western North Carolina. So and 26 Interstate 26, I don't think it's going to be open anytime soon either. So it's going to be it's a long, long road. But if you have donated anything, um, everything's greatly appreciated. If you want to donate something, anything works. Get with myself or Jared, or we can at least guide you if it's hay, if it's you know if it's coats, if you want to ship some coats or non-perishables or anything like that. Please get with us. We can get those to the channels that need to be, especially me out here. I can get them exactly where they need to go because we're a drop-off location. So if anyone wants to do that, feel free to let us know, and we can get that going for you. But tonight we'll get on a happier subject again. Tonight we're going to talk about weaning and weaning strategies. Just kind of some different ways that you can wean. Um, you're right. It's a lot of people start weaning about this time of year, and you and I talked about that, and we feel like that this would be a good time to talk about it and just see what some different strategies are. The first thing that I can think of would be fence line versus just taking them completely away from wherever they're at.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like we talked about a minute ago. Anytime it's always for me, I feel that cool air coming down. Being kind of in the starter business too, that's get you blood going. Think about time to gather up some calves, and that's the big what we call the fall run, which is majority of the cattle in the United States is born in the spring, so they wean them in the fall, about this time of year. So like Josh said, this is big. I think it's a good time to talk about it. But like I said, between fence line and taking them away, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. So we were thinking about talking about what we do and the pros and cons of that if you're thinking about trying different strategies of weaning. Uh, but here at our place, we take them straight away from the cow and move them to another location. As far as we move the calves, definitely don't move the cows because they'll try to go somewhere else. But that would be a big no would be to move the cows and leave the calves. But anyway, we take the calves away from the cattle or the cows and actually have a what we call the home place or whatever and pen them up there. We put them in a good pen. We don't really even put them in like a fenced area. They've got steel kind of deal to stay in that way, especially that first night or two, uh, to go ahead and that way start getting the balling out of them and at this location. And not saying that's the best strategy. There's definitely some cons about that. The cows ball for several days, the calves ball for several days. It's pretty stressful for the calves because they don't know where they're in a new place, in a new location, and their mothers that they've always known are not anywhere to be found. So, but that works for us because of our facilities. Where the main farm is a lease farm, and we don't really have the facilities to do a fence line weaning or something like that. Now we've thought about doing. I'm not sure. I can't remember what they're called, but they got the little clip that goes in their nose. Easy, quiet wean. I
Oh
think that's what
yeah, yeah.
quiet wean, where you stick that clip in their nose, and then they stay with the cow for a little while. Then they can't. That thing keeps them from nursing, but they get to stay there with the cow. So, uh, we have several folks in our area that do that and have really good results. But that's kind of what we're doing. I think we have several folks that do the fence line weaning too. There's definitely a pro to that, is they're able to nose to nose contact with their mother, and I think they say that kind of keeps the ball into the to a minimum, and definitely lowers the stress with that. Um, but the con to that would be you have to have a really good fence to make that work, and the facility to do that. So,
Yeah, we've done both. And we actually just done some fence line weaning, and it's not really that we've done it on purpose. It's just kind of where they ended up. We have a lot across the road. We call it the weaning lot. That's pretty original, huh? Um,
the weaning.
the weaning lot. It's just a little small pasture somewhere, but the neighbors don't like you for a couple days. uh,
Yeah.
they for sure
Well,
don't like you for a couple days.
well, it's funny. We talk about that a lot at Dad's because the little holding area we put them in the first couple of days is on the far side of the barn, so it kind of blocks the noise from Dad's house. But my aunt and uncle are on the other side, so they have to hear it. It echoes off that barn. And when we actually weaned the other day, some of the neighbors down the road were like, "What y'all do to them cows? They sure were hollering." But it was so quiet and
uh,
cool, it that night they were pretty loud, echoing off the side of that barn. But
oh yeah, it's funny the comments you get. Yeah, they don't like you for sure, but I mean, I'll be honest with you. I probably like the fence line weaning better after doing it. And like I say, it wasn't intentional; it just kind of happened that way for us. Um, they seem to eat better, come in and eat better, and they seem not to ball as much, which in turn to me would mean they wouldn't drop as much probably. Um, not sitting there balling, but it's just kind of hard unless you've got just that right setup. It's kind of hard to fence line wean all the time, especially here because I've got, like you said, we've got four different pastures, and none of them's connected. Um, so they're hard. It's hard to wean and do that. But you brought up a really good point, and it's on further down our list. But this is a good thing to go ahead and talk about: is good fence. You better have a good fence when you start weaning, because those cows are going to find a way, or the calves are going to find a way. If there's a hole, they're probably going to go through it.
well, that kind of, and it goes back to the fence line weaning thing. Like, it would be hard to have like you can't really do it with like a 5 strand barbed wire fence.
Right.
Like, they're gonna get through that, or even may even nurse through that. Uh, so you're kind of looking at some kind of either steel pipe or web wire, woven wire, whatever you want to call it, net fence,
Mm-hmm.
to keep them from getting back together. But they're able to stick their nose through there and kind of smell and touch each other, make them comfort. Uh, so I mean, if you got the facility to use the quiet weeds, that sounds like that would be the least stressful, other than having to run them through the chute. But
I saw those
uh,
for the first time just the other day. They popped up somewhere, and I didn't know what they were. But that once I got to studying on them, that actually might not be a terrible idea.
well, I had a fellow colleague in extension. He did a little research project on it, and I wish I'd have looked it up before we started talking about it. But I remember the quiet weed had a pretty good weight advantage as far as weaning them like that versus taking them completely away from the cows. Same with the fence line. I think there was pretty similar results between those two versus taking them away. Obviously, the taking them away and moving them somewhere was the most stressful and the most backwards the calves went,
Yeah.
and the weight gain suffered. So I could see that. I mean, there's some things you could do to help with that. Uh, we've, and this kind of goes into more things we'll talk about, but feeding them, having the calves familiar with feed before you wean them is, I think that's really important. You know, I think especially if you're well, if you're especially if you're fixing to put them in a program where you want to feed them a supplement, such as a commodity mix, or even if you're, I know we're talking about Beefmaster and purebred, but I'm sure we probably have several commercial people doing it as well. And if you're going to background those cattle and feed them a little bit, I'd definitely introduce them to feed before you wean them. I think that's one of the biggest things that you can do to help lower that stress and keep that weight gain going on the right track. Because learning a new feed and getting that gut all tore up during that even more it makes that stress even worse. So I
Well,
think
and
that's one of the best things I think you can do.
yeah,
And
I agree.
we can talk more about that. I mean, that's one thing I learned from getting into the stocker business and buying calves through the sale barn is the worst feeling in the world walking out there the next day or two after you've got a fresh set of calves in is if they don't know what feed is. They'll literally run from it. I mean, I mean, seriously, like they're like, "What is this?"
It's gonna get them.
I mean, they'll eat hay. Everybody obviously they know what hay and grass is, but man, you try to get them on a feed program and they're just looking at it. I mean, there's ways of the feed is kind of we like to use that because it kind of tells if they're eating,
Right.
show signs if they go off the little feed that they're getting, they may be sick, So um, if they don't know what feed is, it's a lot harder to get them straightened out because it's harder to tell if they're sick. It's harder to tell how they're acting. Uh, Fortunately, when you put several together, obviously there's usually some in there that know what it is, so they kind of learn from the others. But there's no better feeling than taking a pan of calves in there and you put a little feed in there in their trough and all one straight to it.
Yeah.
I mean, because that pen is probably going to be easy because they're already going. That gut health is one of the most important parts of that. And same thing with when you're weaning calves, the background of them at home. You want them to go ahead familiar with their feed source before you take them into that stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's some really strong opinions I've seen all over the place that some people don't creep feed at all, and that's fine if that's what you don't do. But I agree with you. I just think it's really important and it really helps in the weaning process when, like you said, when they already know what feed is and you start feeding them. I mean, it just, it's, and depending on who you talk to, some people say it doesn't, some people say it does. We creep feed here at the house when they're on their mamas, and I can tell you, I think it's done nothing but help. I mean, it just adds pounds. There's just no way around it. And like you said, even if it's just a little bit, it's just mainly getting them used to it. So when they get weaned, I mean, it's go time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I've not always crept fed our calves. Some years when feed's cheap, yeah, we usually put it out there full time. But then some years here in the last few years before calves started getting higher, when feed was going up, we might have waited and crept fed some. Maybe not even crept fed them. We just may introduce them to feed a couple of weeks before we want to wean them.
Right.
2 weeks or whatever, get them used to it. And that would be my advice. If you don't creep feed, and I guess if you're not going to put them on feed after you wean them, I mean that may be a different story. But you know, the vast majority of calves that are weaned and go further are going to hit feed at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Commercial and registered. So uh, I think it's just a good strategy to have that feed introduced for sure.
I agree with you. And it's a stressful process. I mean, weaning the calves, it's stressful for all involved, and the least stressful or the least stress that you can make, anytime you can make working cattle less stressful on anything or anybody, you're better off, especially with the calves. I mean, you know, that kind of goes back to once they're weaned, do you creep feed? Do you leave a creep feeder out there? Some people do, or do you hand feed them? We hand feed them every day. I do think it gentles them down and it gets them coming when we're ready for them to come. Not just, my concern is always, even if you only call them and feed them when you're ready to catch them, if there's a creep feeder out there after they're weaned, I'm not always convinced they're going to come.
No,
And
uh,
I don't really want to be out there chasing something around. So I feel like if they come to you, if they learn to come to you, and I know not everybody can just go out there and hand feed because they may have too many, they may not have time to do it. I get it. There's all different kinds, but for us, hand feeding them works because it just teaches them, hey, when we come, they're coming to us. They're running at this point to
Yeah.
to
Well,
get to
and
us.
kind of break that down. I mean, they're associating you with the food or
Right.
feed. So, and then with the feeder, they associate the feeder, with the feed. Uh, but now I agree with you a lot on the hand feed. You're able to kind of control the ration a little bit more as far as how much they're eating. A little easier. I mean, there's limiters and things like that you can put in feed to slow that down. But I like the idea of hand feeding them. Check that way you get a good eye on them every day or every other day if you're feeding them every other day. And like the biggest benefit obviously is to gentle them down and make them more more docile. And if you only see them ever so often, then when you keep feet out, they do tend to get a little more jumpy.
Yeah.
I've learned that too.
It happens. It happens. It's not a bit, and like I say, it's all going to be different for everyone because everyone's going to have a little different setup or a little different um program or a little different idea. But one thing we can probably everyone agree on is a good vaccination program for calves. Um, when weaning, I feel like, and Jared, you're the extension agent, so you can tell me here a little better, but when those calves get stressed and they're bawling and walking that fence line and they're not necessarily coming to feed very much right then, so they're losing weight, they do get, if not vaccinated, and sometimes even if vaccinated, they are susceptible to getting sick.
Yeah, oh, of course. A vaccine program is really important, especially if uh those calves are going to be commingled at some point, or if they're going to another farm or with other cattle, or if you're in the commercial business, somebody else is taking hold of them. If they're going to a feed test, like a bull feed test, heifer feed test, they're going to more than likely show up with, uh, that may be 100 head or 150 head from 40 different farms. You never know. I mean, so they're going to get introduced. I mean, it probably ain't as bad as taking them through a stockyard, but it is kind of the same concept. So they for sure, if you're doing that, a vaccine protocol is good. If you're retaining them for your own herd, that's good because you know they can catch stuff and all that. Of course, like diseases like black leg and tetanus are always a risk. So you need to be doing that for sure. Uh, I feel like when you wean the calves, try not to give them the shots right when they're in that stress period of being detached from their mother. It's always best to have them some type of shot before you wean them, and then may want to booster them after weaning or I say at weaning, but after they've got the ball out because there's been studies done showing that those vaccines sometimes don't work as well if they're in a high stress environment. So I don't know the details of that. I'm not a vet, but I'm assuming the stress level, cortisol in their bloodstream probably knocks doesn't make it work as well. Uh,
I could see that.
uh, you know, and as you're waiting, I mean, that's a lot of times sometimes that's the first time people do get their hands on their calves. So, you're ready to do your vaccines and stuff like that. You're probably ready to do some tattooing, some DNA, and all that good stuff as well. So a lot of people do dehorning then and things like that. I mean, I like to give our calves multi-min 90 when we wean them. I think I really like that just because, they're going through that stress period. They get that extra boost of vitamins in there. And studies do show that the vaccines do work better with that shot too. So uh, I think the vitamins probably help that result. I've been trying we've used a new product in the stocker deal and with our homegrown calves and registered calves is called Therapies. And I recommend it. I mean, I ain't got no research behind my own self to say that it works better, but I've kind of got anecdotal. I mean, the times we've used it, we've seen some pretty good results. The balling is less, it's quieter. They tend to be more relaxed. We've seen that more in the stocker calves as far as, when we're out there with them, checking on them and stuff, they tend to not be as timid and they tend to go to feed quicker. So that product is something that you pour on their nose and their forehead, and it's supposed to mimic the gland next to the udder, I think, as far as, like you're on there, they're still associating that with the cow, so
Well, it's funny
uh
you say that because I was getting ready to mention that. I didn't really know what it was. So,
so
um,
it's a hormonal kind of thing. They put it on there and the pheromone goes into their nostrils, and it's supposed to, I guess it's kind of like the name says, it's supposed to appease their want or need to want to be with their mother. So uh we tried it pretty much as soon as we found out about it on a set of calves last year and last fall. And after about 2 days of trying it, we were like, wow, we're gonna put this on everything. I mean, and like I said, it ain't a miracle worker. If they're crazy, they're crazy. But it really I mean, it was amazing how quick some of them cattle went on feed with that, and how it just didn't seem like they had their guard up as bad.
right.
And then we tried, it wasn't long after that, we tried it on a set of our Beefmaster calves. And I mean, it was funny. Dad said, I don't know why them calves ain't balling like they normally do. And I was like,
You knew
that,
why.
that's why. I mean, we put it on there and we were really, really pleased with it. So
I mean,
that's something for people to try. Some people say that it's good to put on your cows as you work them too. And anytime you put them through the chute, put it on anything. So I don't have any. I haven't done that yet, but uh, it'd be something to try. I mean, it's cheap. I mean, it ain't but like $1 or $2 per head. So
oh, it's nothing. Yeah.
yeah, so it's nothing really. It just comes in this bottle, and you got this little squirt gun on there, and you just squirt it. It dials the dose up for you. So
I'll have to try that.
oh, it's worth the try. I mean, I think it's kind of a neat product.
Yeah, that's I had to look into that. It was funny because I thought about that today when we were talking about the episode we are going to do, and I thought I'm gonna figure out what that stuff is, and I didn't get time to do it today, but you just told me what it was, so thanks.
Well, I mean, and I think I don't know if I can't remember if I told you about it or not in the past, but when I first looked at it, I was like, well, that's kind of a neat concept. And then I've asked people about it before we bought it, and they were like, oh, that's snake oil, or whatever. But and it may be, I don't know, but
Worked for you though, didn't
it worked for me. Maybe I was just excited that I hoped it worked. I don't know,
well,
but
that could be it. But
it
hey,
it 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 no, it was a pretty visible difference for us.
oh yeah, I guarantee it. Well, kind of piggybacking off of the vaccine programs, you know, we run normally 2, 3, 4 months, just kind of depending on how the calves fall and that kind of thing. We'll give our first round of shots, black leg, tetanus, that kind of stuff, good worming, and kind of get. I always find success that in that. I know their mama carries a lot of those antibodies or whatever you want to call it for the calf, but I'm always the type anything we can do to help our cattle, why not do it? Right? I mean, I I get that they're cows and they've got to be cows and they've got to go and do, but if we can, you're gonna vaccinate them anyways, the calves that is. Why not? Why not make it as easy as you can on your cows? That's kind of the way I look at it. I think in the long run it does nothing but help, everything. But that's when we do our first round of shots, and like I say, it's not a big round of shots. We give it's Convection 8 is what we use, so it's all in one. Jared got me started using that a couple years ago, and And then on weaning day, I know you were talking about potentially waiting until the balling's over, and that may be something we need to look into a little more. But normally on weaning day, we go ahead and give the vaccines, and they get their first round of Pyramid 5 right then too, because when we use a modified live, um, and we find good success with it, thankfully, and that's just kind of what we do. Um, Now, I will say for the folks that have never used a modified live, because I didn't start until a few years ago, if your cows have never had it, make sure that you're not letting those cattle and calves nose each other, um, especially if they're bred, because that could not be good. But if you got a place to separate them, I highly recommend it because it works well. But I mean, they do make killed virus vaccines too, so um, that's
Yeah,
sort of what we do.
and the biggest thing, if you are looking at vaccines and haven't talked about it or are new to it, I mean, there's like he mentioned the killed vaccine versus a modified live vaccine. So, uh, the modified live, really to know the difference, modified live a lot of times will have to be mixed, and then. And another thing is it only lasts for so long, so you can't put it back in the fridge and save it. The killed you can. So don't be if you get a modified live vaccine and you mix it up, you have to use it that day. So don't uh, don't make the mistake of putting it back in the fridge and then trying to use it again some other day because it won't be any good. Uh, so that's something important to remember on those two different deals. Now, for my experience and research does show that too, but a modified live is more effective vaccine. Uh, is from what I've read and we use that. We use modified lives on our calves, all of our calves, and on our stocker cattle too. Uh, and kind of like Josh did mention about the don't give it to the cows if they never have it because you could cause. I mean, I think there's some risk of abortion there if they're bred. Same with the giving it to the calves. Give it to the calves and the cows has never been exposed also. So, but that's something to remember as well on that.
Yeah, no, I mean and I mean whatever you do, heck, we'd like to hear what you all do because we may all learn something from each other here. Everybody's going to do something a little different. I don't think everybody's going to do. I mean, obviously everybody's not going to do the exact same thing, but I would venture to probably guess very, very, very few people have the exact same vaccine protocol. So we could probably all learn something from each other on this. And I'd love to hear um, what you all, everybody listening, what how you do it, um, how you wean your calves. Um, Let us know. I'd like to hear for sure. I mean, if there's something that I can do to better that we can do to better our the way we're doing things, I would absolutely do it. Somebody that's got experience with those quiet wing things that Jared was talking about, I'd love to hear about those too. Let me know if they work. Um, Let us know if they work. But that's sort of all we had tonight was just we wanted to talk about weaning. It's something that I don't even know that we've talked about it 3 years.
I don't know.
But
It's fresh on our mind because a lot of people's doing it right now, and probably kind of like with the season. We've been trying to keep the stuff we talk about kind of current, I guess. So,
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
uh,
Um, we've got this episode and two more though, so and that'll round out the year. And it's hard to believe we're already to the end of almost to the end of year three.
yeah, it's moving right along.
But we'll um we'll have our this episode and two more and um through the month of December we would love to hear subjects that y'all would like to hear. So be thinking on that. We'll mention that in our last episode again and hit on some things there. But um pretty much out of time tonight, but I think that was a good episode, Jerry.
Yeah, I enjoy talking about weaning calves. And I guess I mean not to keep rolling, but I mean it's an important part of the process.
Well, absolutely.
I mean, because that's when you typically have. I mean, that's when you have some risk involved. We didn't really talk about some other strategies. I mean, trailer weaning at the sale barn. So if you do take cattle you know, to the sale, I mean, that's another strategy that some people use.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it several times, uh, especially on goals or whatever. Uh, but it is, and it goes back to the vaccine. Uh, you know, this is an economical business, and it costs money to do all that. It costs money to background calves and all that. So there's nothing wrong with selling your calves straight off the cow. Uh, but they do go through a lot of stress, and the person buying them has to pick up the slack when it comes to that. And there's people out there that know how to do it. I mean, they're good at it. That's how they make their living. And but it is risky because a lot of folks, if they've never had bought calves through a sale, they may not see the backside of that, and it can get tough.
It can get sticky real quick, huh?
Yes, it sure can, especially on calves that are not weaned and not vaccinated.
Yeah, you know all too well.
Oh, well, man, you just gotta look at it. Oh, I look at it this, I got a 3-month-old, so he had his first cold this past week. But it's kind of funny. We talk about that. He went to the babysitter for a trial run for a couple of days. Well, guess what? It's his first exposure to, and we went to church first few times, been out. So, I mean, who really knows where he picked it up? But he was exposed for the first time a lot, really. It's the same action at the sale barn. I mean, it's like dropping a kindergartner off or a preschooler off or an infant off at daycare for the first time, away from mama. It's stressful. Anybody that's ever done it, it's hard to get out the door because they're already crying. There's the stress right there. Same thing with the calves. Have you ever been in a sale barn? It's just blaring, bawling. So the stress is there. The disease is there. They pick it up. They're exposed to all this stuff. They go to a new place, new feed ration, new everything. And that disease just gets in there and just takes hold. But if they don't have that vaccination in there, they don't have that protection.
Right.
They can still get sick because of the stress. Because the stress is really what causes the sickness linked with the disease.
Right.
But the vaccination is what gives them a fighting chance.
Yeah.
If they don't have it. If they don't have it, then we got to work with the antibiotics. And then that is obviously up to the person who gets calves if they're quick enough to see if they're sick or not. I mean, that's part of it. So
well, some,
and that leads to more trouble because you got resistance and all these things. So
that's a whole other episode.
We won't go down that episode.
No,
I don't know why I'm talking about all this, but it's been on my mind.
No, it's good, man. They keep going. I'll sit right here and listen to you.
But that's just something I think, and maybe it's the extension agent in me that we do these classes and we see that side of it, and people always want more money for their calves, and that's one way to help get more money for your calves is have them ready to go for the next person. Because the death loss, all that does is death loss takes the fun out of it, obviously. But that person that takes on that death loss, guess what? They have less money to spend the next time they buy calves. So, that's just something to look at. But that's just part of it. Anyway, I got rambling there for a second.
Hey, that's good.
Let's try to quit.
Nah, we'll keep going. I'm good with it.
I'm good.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely an episode we need to do, though. I mean, that would be everything you said right there. I think it would be. I mean, we could make a whole maybe 2 episodes off that. So
yeah,
we could. It'd be all right.
Anyway, it's getting late already, ain't it?
It is. It always is. It's like I turn around one time and it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, daddy daycare's wore me out.
Oh, daddy daycare. Yeah. Yeah, it's oh, it's fun though, huh?
It is. Yeah, I won't trade it for nothing.
Nah. Well, we hope everybody enjoyed this episode. You all let us know what you think of it and give us some ideas, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right, we'll see.
Well, we want to thank everybody for listening to the Beefmaster Banner podcast. Please know that we are on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and we are on YouTube. Just search Beefmaster Banner. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you.